Or of call. This is gonna be a fun one. For some time, I've been meaning to put together a time and energy management course. There's a few pieces of content inside of the boot camp about it, but I've been meaning to set aside and create an entire one, and I'm going to. I'm going to be adding another course to the program, just like I did with how to use AI to conquer the world. I will be talking about how to use your time and manage it most effectively, and how to manage your energy. I'll probably come up with some cool name for it too, but it's going to be specifically about things that you can do to better manage your time and energy to get more done, to usually get yourself out of whatever situation you're in are currently into a place of more time and energy freedom, so that you can become more financially free faster. So I'm going to be talking about that today. For those of you who haven't showed up before, this is our morning power up call every day inside of the copywriting campus. I do a quick 9 to 10 to 15 to 20 minute call, get everybody together, and I share announcements, things that are happening inside the program. But then I blast you guys with ideas, information, mindsets, key perspective shifts that will help you transform yourself faster, move through the program faster, and achieve more. Make your first money faster, level up, reach that level of financial freedom that you're looking for. And I do this based on what I see inside the chat. So I'm in the chats, talking with people, seeing what's going on, seeing what questions people have. And I've been having a lot of conversations with people inside the Mindset channel recently. And I've been talking with them about difficulties and obstacles and roadblocks that are keeping them from getting the work done, right? And we had a lot of conversations. Yesterday, I had some with some people, or yesterday I did a power-up call based on some of those conversations, but I asked some follow-up questions, and I've got some questions from people that I want to answer on this call live, and I want to elaborate on live. So one second, let me move my screens around, and I want to pull up their actual quotes so we can talk about them. Let's see if I can Mr. Producer this real quick. All right, that should work. Bingo. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen so we can look at this. Bingo. All right. Andrew, I'm having trouble in my mornings. I want to have a productive start to the day, but I can't for the life of me lively up properly. I feel soggy for about an hour straight, basically every morning. I still go up to take a cold shower, jump rope for a while, and do some work before going to my job. But I definitely feel very ineffective. Any tips for getting that energy faster? Thanks. How do you get that energy faster? How do you? I love the description, the way he described how he felt. He's like, I feel soggy. He wants to lively up, but he feels soggy for about an hour. How do you go from feeling soggy to having that energy? So we'll talk about that. Another one. Hey, I've been in the course for about 6 months now. Frankly, the first 2 months, I was pretty thrilled and motivated about copywriting. But once school started, I lost all that excitement and motivation. I'm not going to do my copywriting skills for almost 3 or 4 months. I feel too lazy to do it. I know I have to be disciplined, but how can I discipline myself? How can I keep showing up? How can I improve? How can I stop being broke? How can I stop being lazy? I feel like shit. I want to do the work, but when it's time to do the work, I'm lazy and I don't feel like doing it. Thank you very much. I think that was one of the ones we read yesterday. Yeah, here's the mornings guy. Here's another one. Oh no, this is a guy who just completely blew away and got 33% response rate. Yeah, different message. I take screenshots of the fun ones every so often, the ones I want to talk about, and then I go back over them. So that was definitely one of them. But a lot of people have been asking, how do I get my morning started better? Or a lot of people are in school or working, and they work all day. They wake up, they train, they work all day, and they come home and they have like 2 hours to do copywriting on a weekday, and they're tired and they don't know, and it's difficult to get to work. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. How do they mix that in? So I've got a lot of questions about that, and I'm gonna be talking about some answers for you. And I thought about 3 different things, 3 different elements you guys can work into the way you approach this problem to better achieve a higher level of energy, so you can actually get the work done. Because I understand it. There have been times in my life where I worked full time and I was trying to get something started on the side. I remember when I started copywriting, I had enough time, flexibility to put a significant amount of time every day into it. The things I was doing, I was running a business on a previous business, and but it had like died because of the pandemic. So I had more time. I was able to just completely invest all of my time I possibly could into what I was doing, which was awesome. But there've been other times in my life where I've needed to develop skills and develop income streams on the side. And I want to tell you a story about one of the ways I did that. And in the process, I'm going to teach you the 3 keys for managing energy and managing your time so you can get work done even when you feel tired. Because I certainly did back then. So I had I'd studied business management, and I had made a friend, and I had networked with a founder of a startup company. He had about 100 employees. He had gone through Y Combinator, had some really cool funding from some of the really cool VCs. It was a software as a service company, and he was a cool dude. And I did a project where I worked with him for I did like a school consultancy project with him in like a networking thing I was working on. He really liked what I did, and he offered me a job. He said, "Come work for me. Come join my sales team. You learn more about business here than you do going to school, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably." But I was still in school doing stuff. Anyways, I had dropped out, and I decided to take that job and take the sales job. And I was working full time as a sales rep for this guy at his company, and I was doing cold calling. I was cold calling dentists day and night like a madman, which is a lot of fun. Learned a lot of cool things. Probably not the best model. I don't really teach you guys to cold call today for several reasons, but that was the game I played for a while, and I got really, really good at it. But while I was there, I realized that what I was doing it had limits. As a salesman, I could only sell to one person at a time. I knew that if I wanted to be successful, I needed to achieve scale. And at that point, my goal was to create a software as a service company and scale it up. That was the game. That's what I'd studied in school. That's what my goal was. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to go work and jobs in all the different departments of all the different that you would need to have inside of one of these companies. So then I can start my own. I know how to do everything, and then I can hire people effectively. That was my strategy inside my mind. Don't know if it's the best strategy, but it's the strategy I picked. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I've worked the sales side of it. I need to go work in the dev side of it. And I thought to myself, I had tried to start a software company in the past. I'd relied on outside dev talent. didn't manage the relationships well. And I thought, oh, I should just get good at like writing software. Wrong approach. I should have gotten better at managing people. But needless to say, this isn't about just understanding that story. But let me tell you what I did. So I went and decided that I was going to learn how to become a full stack web developer so I could build web applications, so I could build the software, at least the early version of software behind a lot of these softwares as a service companies, these SaaS companies. And I had another friend, a guy I had networked with, who ran a software development shop. So they had 20 different developers, some iOS developers, some Android developers, some backend developers, some front end developers. And they were the ones who had built a lot of the early prototypes and the full-fledged products for some of the startups I had networked with at the time. So I knew the founder of this company really well. We got along really well. And he was like, yeah, if you can pass our thing, I'll definitely bring you on as a developer. So I decided to teach myself full stack web development, which is usually something that people go to school for. And I decided to teach myself on the side while I was working full time. I had a wife I was supporting as I was working full time. She was finishing up her college degree. And I was busting my butt all day on a sales call, high energy all day long. And then at the end of the day, I'd come home, I'd try and teach myself web development based on online tutorials and stuff. Just taking different courses and products and just doing as much practice as I possibly could. And I started to run into difficulty, right? Because I would spend a lot of time and energy at work. And then when I'd get home, I had my family, I had time, and I wanted to spend time with my wife. I wanted to do these different things. I was tired, and it was difficult for me to start learning how to develop. And I remember sitting down and auditing my time, which is something I've always done. I've always sat and analyzed my life and what I'm doing and what I could do to improve it. And I realized that I had different kinds of tasks in my life. I had things that were fun and easy. I had things that were difficult. I had things that were providing value to my life, and I had things that had the potential to change my life, right? And I realized that working my job was good and important. However, it wouldn't change my life, right? Like the harder I worked at my job, sure, I'd make more money, maybe I'd get promoted, but it wouldn't systematically transform my life. Maybe I would increase my income by 10% a year, maybe. But if I was to go a different route and focus entirely on But if I took some of that same time and invested it into developing learning how to write as a web developer, I could increase my income 2x overnight, basically, right? By getting a different job and then setting myself up for future things. I saw that as the key to systematically improving my life, because there's incremental improvements and then there's systematic improvements, right? Incremental improvement would be like learning how to walk faster. A systematic improvement is like getting a car and driving it, right? You're doing the same thing, but significantly better because it's a systematic upgrade. In my time in that life, I realized, hey, the thing that's going to give me a systematic upgrade is to learn how to write code, learn how to be a web developer, which I did. And the reason I knew that is because I'm like, if I write code once, I can deploy it a million times, right? If code has the potential to scale, right? And what I should have done, if I could have gone back in time, I would have slapped myself across the face. Probably not. I would have shook my hand. looked that guy in the eye because he did a lot of hard work. And I've been like, listen, the thing that you're doing right now, you're trying to move to something that gives you more scale. Instead of going the software development route, you need to go the marketing route, the copywriting route. Take these sales skills that you're developing and learn how to do them at scale, right? Learn how to sell to 1 million people at once instead of just one, which is what I eventually did. But anyways, that's beside the point. But what I was doing is I was looking for a systematic upgrade. That was a systematic upgrade. And I realized that was the most important thing I could throw units of time and energy into, right? I could throw time and energy into other things. I could throw time and energy into, watching a TV show. I could throw time and energy into working out, spending time with my wife, going to my job. I could spend time and energy into learning how to be a developer. And I realized the most important thing I could do is spend my time and energy on the thing that would systematically upgrade my life. So one of the things you need to do inside of your life is look at the things that are going to provide systematic upgrades. And for most of you, in fact, for 99% of you, unless you're under 18, the most important thing that you can throw your time and energy into is developing the skills inside of the copywriting course, doing the work inside of the copywriting course, because it's going to give you the key to financial freedom. It's going to give you skills that allow you to sell at scale. It's going to give you the skills you need to enter into any market and disrupt it. Make a product, launch it, make millions and millions of dollars. It is the number one skill you could possibly develop, and it's the thing that can change your life, right? Everything else, as important as it might be, will bring incremental improvements to your life, but that will bring a systematic improvement to your life. For 99% of you, that's what you need to do, right? Once I realized that that was the most important thing I needed to do, I thought about how can I do this in a way where I get it in every single day. I do what I need to do because I knew I was working like crazy on the weekends, on the Saturdays and Sundays. I just sit there and just work, right? Because it was the most important thing. But during the weekdays, I knew that there was time I could invest. I knew if I could find new ways to invest time in there, I would get that systematic change in my life much faster. So I realized that my strategy was wrong. I'd wake up, I'd work out, I'd go to my job, I'd come back from my job, I'd spend some time with my wife, and then at the end, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., I would work on writing code and learn how to develop, which was, I was making progress, but I was tired when I was doing it. It was difficult. And my brain definitely wasn't there. And there were some days back then where I would just give up. Like, I'm just too tired today. I'm going to do whatever, right? And I didn't do the thing that I needed to do, which was a huge problem. It was slowing down my progress big time during the weekdays. Now, I'm going to talk about some of those things. There's some things I want to talk about there that can be helpful. But I decided to shift the order of my tasks each day. And this is what made a difference for me. So instead of waking up and working out first, what I did is I woke up a little bit earlier. I started getting up 4 o'clock every morning, and from 4 to like 7:30, like an hour and a half, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Yeah, 4 to 7:30, like 2.5 hours. Yeah, I worked for 2.5 hours. I would wake up, brush my teeth, sit down, work for 2.5 hours like a madman on the stuff. And that's what I did first thing in the morning. Then I would go to my job. Then I would come home, work out, spend time with the wife, work a little bit more, maybe 30 minutes more, but I got that 2.5 hours in first thing every morning because I knew that was the most important thing I could possibly do with my time. So I put it the very first thing every morning. And this is what I recommend you guys try. At least again, everyone's schedule is slightly different. But for those of you who have outside commitments, who go to work, who train, who have other things that you're doing, I recommend that you test out, at least for a little bit, test out the first thing every morning, shifting your schedule to where you wake up a little bit earlier. You can go to bed earlier, but you wake up earlier and you do the most important thing first, right? This is the highest leverage activity. I still do this today, right? I wake up, I do these morning power-up calls. I usually train in the morning, quick 30-minute training session. I do have a bigger training session in the evening. I train, 30 minutes or whatever. Do one of these calls, and then I have my big time blocks where I always prioritize the highest leverage tasks, the things that are going to provide the systematic benefit. And in my mind now is what can I do that will help the most amount of students as possible. So usually right now, like the first thing I do after I do these calls is I sit down, I plan and record the next lesson that I'm going to be releasing to the course, right? That everyone in the course is going to get. So I'll plan the next AI lesson. I'm going to be planning, once I finish those, I'll plan and release the rest next of these time and energy management videos. I do the thing that's going to help the most people. And then I go and do the other tasks. They're still important, but I just do them afterwards. And I want to have my time. I want to have my energy fresh. I want to make sure that it's getting done every single day. So I do it first because it's the most important thing. So that's one key to time and energy, to do your time and energy management. If you want to get to work and get the work done fast, do the first thing first, right? You need to do the first thing first, which is, in this case, for almost every single one of you, it's getting that daily checklist done. And you might not get it all done in that little bit of time you carve out in the mornings, but you're going to get a big chunk of it done. And you're going to get it done with more energy than you would if you waited till 10 p.m. in the afternoon to do it. So switch when you work out, switch when you go to school or whatever, or wake up a little bit earlier so you can do it. I guarantee you you're going to get a higher benefit per unit of time by investing in this course than you would if you add an extra hour to your workout, or you add an extra hour to walking the dog, or whatever else you're doing in your life, right? And I want to bring up a tiny point here because this is going to segue into lesson number 2. So the first one is organize your life by order of importance. If you can, and if it's at all possible, do the most important work first, and then do the other work, the work that's going to give you a systematic improvement in your life, that's going to upgrade everything if you fix it and get it right. Do that first, and then do the rest of your important work afterwards. This is why I teach you guys the Eisenhower quadrant inside of the time management video. This is why I teach you all this, so you can identify that task and then do it first, because that's what's going to give you the biggest benefit. You have to block it out. You have to make time for it. It's difficult. Other things try and encroach on that time for that super systematic, important thing that's going to improve your life. You have to carve out and box off that time and make it sacred for you, right? Make it time that's not open for debate. It's not open for other things. So that's key number 1, is set aside that time first thing in the morning, if possible, and make it your sacred time. When you have your top energy, you wake up. For me, I woke up at 4, brush my teeth because it would wake me up a little bit, sit down on the laptop, and throw myself at the work, right? That was the one thing. As I did this, and it took me a month or 2 of doing this to get up to the point where I could then go and get that job, which I did, and went and learned how to be a web developer for a little bit, which was really cool. And it's another story for another time. But as I was going through this process, I started to realize something. I think it was right around Thanksgiving. Yeah, so it was during Thanksgiving, and I went to Thanksgiving dinner and pigged out like an American, right? Just ate everything, right? Because that's what you do on Thanksgiving. And I remember waking up the next day, and dude, I woke up at 4, and like my body hurt, and I was way more tired than normal. And I sat down, and I took like 5 minutes before work. I'm like, why do I feel like this? I don't normally feel like this. And I realized that I had like just consumed a ton of desserts. I had just eaten a bunch of stuff. I don't think I trained the day before. And I realized that like my health was lower, so my energy was lower. Like my health had taken a hit, like hit points, and I needed to rejuvenate. So I finished the work session, tired as I was. It didn't really matter, just got the work done. But I realized that my health was extremely important. So I went and I cut out all the junk out of my life. I stopped drinking soda. I stopped eating any kind of refined sugars. I was basically just eating meat, rice, eggs, and like that was basically it. I was eating extremely basic food, right? Funnily enough, and I cut out all the sugar, cut out all that other junk, and I kept that. And I made sure I was still training every single day. I was hitting my push-ups and doing all my stuff I needed to do. And pretty soon, I went back to baseline, right? Like I had my normal energy, but now all of a sudden I had extra energy, right? Because I cut out all this junk and all this thing that was affecting my insulin levels and affecting my energy and ability to focus. I cut that all out, and boom, my energy and energy that I had day by day increased. Like not only could I get up and do my session in the morning and work really hard at 4 and it was all good, but in the evening time after I trained, I had more energy and I could work even more. So I was able to squeeze even more time into doing this, more energy into it. I slept better. It was fantastic. So I started addressing basic health things and cutting out the things I knew I shouldn't be eating, and making sure I was eating the good things I was eating, staying physically active. I'd get up and walk every so often. I was doing things to keep healthy, and that made a huge difference in my energy levels. And honestly, most people in the world can tighten up their health. They can tighten up their nutrition. They can tighten up their physical activity. This doesn't mean you need to spend 20 hours, 2 hours working out a day. As fun as that is, unless there's a real clear benefit for that, you can usually get roughly the same health benefit from working out 30, 45 minutes a day. So if you're spending 4 hours in the gym because you're trying to be a bodybuilder, you might want to shrink that down, because as great as being a bodybuilder is, it's not going to systematically improve your life as much as developing this financial skill goal while still maintaining a really good physique, a really good health level in like 45 minutes versus 2 hours. So quick note about managing your time at the gym, but improving your health by cutting out junk, by cutting out things that aren't good for you, by only consuming things that are good for you, is a massive game changer. There's all sorts of conspiracies around this. Who knows? Perhaps, the powers that be want to keep people weak and tired, so they promote cheap foods and cheap sugars and dopamine hits to keep people down. But for me, completely removing that from my life has been a massive game changer. And I live like that today. I don't eat junk. I eat steak. And that's about it. I'll eat olive fruit. I like coconut water. Like that's basically it, right? Like I keep my diet extremely simple, and it gives me more energy. It keeps me in a healthy, energetic state all the time. It makes it way easier. So if you catch yourself eating junk, you need to find a way to cut out that junk, cut out the things that are hurting you, and just eat solid, healthy foods. And you know what healthy foods are. I'm not going to give specific dietary tips here. That's not my game. I'm not a nutritionist. But you guys can go out, use this, like do an honest self review of the way you were what you were consuming and how you were living your life, and find ways to be more healthy. Right. For some of you, that might include sleep. Some of you might be trying to work 2-3 hours a night all the time. Dude, I believe in war mode, but I believe in working really, really hard and every now and then rejuvenating. But if you need to, man, and if you've been living on 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep continuously for months and months on end, you might need some sleep. That might be the thing you need to do to get healthy again, right? I've had times where I've been running red like that for a long time, and a recovery day where I let myself sleep as much as I need to and hydrate a bunch has been huge for my energy levels the rest of the time and help me win. So you need to make your own call on that. But being healthy was another thing I discovered that massively influenced my energy levels. And it's cool. I'm using this story because this is when I learned these lessons. I was in my early 20s. And it paid off big for me. It helped me get a really good paying job, move into a field that was really difficult. I remember telling people that I taught myself how to develop. They asked me how long it took, and I said like 2.5 months, and it blew their minds because most of them the same level of skill that I did. Anyways, so you can cram in a lot of learning, a lot of stuff if your energy's right, if you manage your time right. Now, the other part of it that I realized was I've always been someone who, again, self-analyzed. I was always OODA looping my own life. And for a while, I was fairly blind to certain aspects of it. I was able to see those later in life. But when I was a young man, I realized something really interesting. When I was doing this work, when I was sitting there and I was learning how to write code, you're solving complicated problems. You're learning new aspects of how like these different languages work. I'd done HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and I was moving into like Python and backend development. You're solving complicated data problems, right? And you have a problem, you're trying to solve it. And there's different things that could go wrong. It's complicated and it's difficult and it takes a lot of brain calories. And I remember sitting there sometimes and I would catch myself when it got difficult, I would catch myself reaching for my phone. That's when I realized that like having the phone around me was a bad idea. I moved the phone away. But I realized that I was starting to talk about these things inside of my brain. Like I'd be working and I'd hit a difficult patch. And I noticed that I was saying to myself in my brain, wow, this is hard. This is difficult. Man, this is tough. Like this is a hard problem. I remember telling myself these things. And I realized, what does saying that in my mind do to help a situation? Like, does this help me solve the problem more effectively? And I realized it didn't. I realized I was saying other things to myself. Like sometimes it'd be 4 o'clock and I'd get up and like, man, I'm too tired. I'm too tired for this today. I'd sit down and work. But I told myself that I'm too tired for it. And my quality of like work session would go down. And I realized that the things I was saying to myself, the self-talk or the self-hypnosis that I was doing at the time, was counterproductive. It wasn't helping me be more successful. It wasn't helping me bring more energy to the moment. So I realized that like actually saying that had no difference. So I decided to do an experiment. So for the next couple of days, I switched it. Every time I would catch myself saying this is so hard, I'd say, this is such an exciting problem to solve. I can't wait to solve it, right? I would switch it. And in my mind, I would say something different, something more powerful that would cast it in a more powerful light. Like, oh, I'm going to win and this is going to be lots of fun. Or, oh, this is where I'm going to like blow past the competition. I remember telling myself these things. And in the moment, I would say those, and then I would act. And in the combination of those two, saying something different, and then acting on that new idea, would almost always spark enough energy to get through it. And then once I defeated the obstacle, I got that dopamine hit, and it felt really good. I got addicted to doing that. So I'd throw myself at what I called the bleeding edge. Right? There's always some limitation of your mind, some limitation of what you're able to do. And I got really obsessed with finding it and like pushing through it. Right? So whenever I found difficulty, and I think this is right around the time I first encountered Stoicism. I think I just read Obstacle is the Way. I think that's what sparked the idea, is I realized, this difficulty, this hard part, this thing that makes me feel tired or overwhelmed or whatever, whatever that thing is, that's the source of that, blasting through that is what's actually going to give me the systematic upgrade with this particular part of the problem that I'm solving. So I just started attacking like crazy, right? So I noticed that. I noticed when I had the tendency to talk negatively, and I switched it and started proactively speaking more powerfully to myself. Instead of saying I'm tired, I'm saying I'm going to get a good session done. I would tell myself these things, and then and it's not enough to just tell yourself, because I remember telling myself and just like sitting there and it didn't change anything. But if I told myself that I was going to get more energy, that I was going to do more, that I was going to overcome this problem, that I was excited by solving a problem, and then I immediately acted on that same idea and took action. The combination of those two created the energy I needed to blast forward. So it was huge, made a huge difference in my ability to get work done. Again, I got more done in 2.5 months, working like 3 hours a day total, than most people did going to school for 4 years. That's it. That's just the honest truth of it. Came in, showed up, got my development job, blew their tests out of the way. My buddy was really happy. I worked there for 3 or 4 months as a developer. Then they realized I could talk to people, and I wasn't like a super developer nerd. And they put me on their product team, and I was meeting face to face with clients at these giant, huge funded multi-million-dollar companies. And I would sit down with them and scope out the project and communicate with the developers and run the team. I had to grow. That's when I grew my beard out for the first time, was because I looked like a baby. I had like a super baby face, and I was meeting with these, people were spending millions of dollars with us, and they wanted to see somebody with like, that looked old and reliable. So I grew a beard out because it helped with that. So anyways, so that's a story from my past, and that's how I discovered these 3 key ideas. One is identify the highest leverage ways that you can spend your time, the things that are going to provide the systematic upgrades, and do that first whenever possible. Do that first. The second thing was keep your health right. Eliminate things that kill your energy. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're staying physically active. Extremely important. And the last thing is notice how you're talking to yourself when you run into difficulty, and change it to give yourself more power, and then take action. These things if you implement these 3 things, you'll be able to manage your energy significantly better. You'll be able to accomplish more with the same unit of time with each day. And you'll be able to attack everything with a greater level of energy, everything that's important with a greater level of energy. Now, for some of you, your time that you have available might be a little bit less. For some of you, it might be a little bit more. That's how life is. Nothing's equal. Nothing's perfectly fair. But if you use these ideas, you're going to be able to do more. I still live by these 3 tenets a day. I catch myself. If I ever catch myself speaking negatively, I flip it immediately. I don't have time for that. I need the energy that comes from speaking positively myself. I make sure that I eat healthily. I cut out the stuff that isn't good for me. I eat quality foods because it boosts my energy and gives me the ability to conquer. And I always do the most important thing first. Every night before I allow myself to sleep, I sit down, identify what I need to do the next day. I write it down. I wake up the next morning, and I just attack that list because I know what I need to do, and I know what's the most important. I know what's going to make the biggest difference for those I'm here to help and for myself. And that's what I do. So hopefully you guys are able to use these 3 lessons. This has been a fun one. I like telling good stories. Stories are a fun way for me to communicate ideas and give you guys some context and help you guys connect with me. So I'm glad you guys got a chance to listen to early 20s Andrew discover some of the keys to success that helped him out in his life. And hopefully they're helpful for you as well. So this has been a good call. Again, I'm going to be releasing an entire course on some of these ideas. I'll probably clip this video out and put it in the course because it's pretty cool and story context. But I'm going to be producing a course after I'm finished with the AI course, which I'll probably do for another week or so. Probably have some more lessons. I'll create an entire time management course. Throw that in there as well so you guys can have it. It's a standalone resource. It's not buried in the boot camp like the current time management one is, but it's going to help you guys apply and manage your time and energy significantly better than you are now, which is going to help you win faster. If you can manage your time and energy faster, you can move faster. It's like if you have a boat, this is like upgrading the boat, making sure the sails are all good, making sure that like the drag is like drop down, and it's going to help you sail faster, right? Versus if you just try and plop into whatever rowboat and try and sail across the ocean, it might be a little difficult. I want to help you upgrade your boat so you can sail through the course process of making money as quickly and efficiently as possible. And time management is the basis of it. So this has been a good call. I will talk with you guys later. I'll be dropping an AI video later today for you guys to keep your eyes on the announcement channel. We've got cool things coming from the course. I'll talk with you all later. Take care.